Okay, so we're recording. All right. So, you guys, we are back with Mind Your Mental Mondays. And it's crazy because there's so many different changes that are going on with our Mind Your Mental Mondays. First things first, Mind Your Mental Mondays is going to also be a podcast. Woo! Somewhere in there.
Oh, I get to celebrate
I
that
need
with you
like the
guys.
clap button or something.
Yes, like you're like
We can do that.
And that being said, we will be part of New Pod City Podcast, which is located downtown in Trenton. We will continue putting this out on Mondays. We just don't have a time for y'all. So just look out for the links and everything else that we post. But to start us off, we have our special guest, which she goes by the name of Mimi. And she is an amazing woman, you guys. I just, I try not to talk about people that I may have known or knew growing up or anything like that, but it still just lets you to see people in their element now as opposed to when you were younger growing up watching them. It's so different. So without further ado, we have Mimi here. We've already had like a bunch of different conversations happening before I hit record, y'all. My bad.
It's crazy.
And I didn't even introduce myself. So I'm Ebony. Shout out to Eb. And then we
can snap so we don't have to clap.
And then we got your girl Talaya.
You know how they do that?
Hey T, hey y'all. So we love to start the show asking how our day has been and is going. The week is going for us. So we'll start with you, T. How you feeling today?
I am good, but I'm tired. Trying to like keep my eyes like this, so you don't see the tiredness as much. So I'm tired. I had a birth last night as a doula. So I went to go check in on my clients today to see like what they needed. So now I'm back here and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
I know that was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And what about you, Mimi? How you feeling today? How you feeling from this week?
She just hit it on the nose because I literally did not sleep last night. I think one of the things, I just got off an appointment with my doctor, and I love when he says, "So how are you feeling?" And I'm like, "I'm not sleeping," and he's like, taking notes, and I'm like, "What you break down over there?" But tired, yes, I feel you 100%, and just. We do have so much that we've already touched base on with how our day started from hair, because my hair is always changing. I know you have a picture of me where my hair is not even the same color.
Yes.
By the time you post this up, it's gonna be different. Watch.
Shared. So, Talaya, before you jumped in and everything, we were talking about our hair and how, as she mentioned, hers is forever changing. And I said, girl, mine is too. I might have straightened it out for this week because of my birthday, but by the weekend, I'm throwing a wig back on it. And she looked at me and she was like, listen, like we just got into this whole mood of we understand, right?
Hair changes so much.
Listen, though, I literally said, as soon as she said that, I am so jealous, because if you're having a rough hair day, like at least for me, because I won't speak on behalf of all people, but for me, it's like I gotta try and figure out how I'm gonna put it up because it's a little too short for that, and then I have to put some pins and all these things in it. But most of my friends would just slap on a wig and I'd be like, what? Wasn't your hair like long and purple yesterday? And today it's like this short little bob and it all looks so perfect. I'm like, I'm jealous because I don't have that confidence, I guess, to just rock a different wig every day. So I wish I could in those in-between phases.
And that's what I was about to say too, because them in-between phases, I can't. Oh, we lost T. I can't at all do my hair. So for instance, the back right now, I don't know if you can, I know I'm in this thing, but this is how short it is now, right? And I was so tempted for her to just shave that off.
Oh, that's what I have. Look.
Yeah. I was about to do a whole undercut again. But
that's because I can't grow it out. I'm like giving into that weird, that's what we're talking about.
It's
that
so
weird
hard,
phase.
But it's so hard to, once you've already cut it, because now you like nothing. Like, I don't like anything on my neck unless I can just snatch it off again with a wig. So, so that's how I'm feeling. And I know when T jumped in, she put on her hat right away. And I'm like, we were just talking about hair and how we can cover it up or, you know, do whatever we need to do with it. But
I need to take some pointers because, you know, hats, I've always been weird about hats too, because always having such short hair, you know, this is the longest, like I said, it's been since I was 2008, maybe when I was pregnant. Actually, I got extensions twice in my life.
Oh.
And my best friend, Lena, she came up with a skinny weft. And that's something she invented. And she runs like this salon out in LA and out in Calgary, Canada. And she does hair for the stars. And like that right there is, you know, I would almost rather wear wigs all the time because, you know, once you put in your extensions, they're a lot of money and you can't just change it up when you feel like it. I change my hair way too much to have extensions.
I completely
but they make it look seamless nowadays. I remember I got like micro braids back in 2000, and that was an experience in itself. But I always felt kind of comfortable changing my hair up and doing whatever I felt like it, you know. But still, like the older you get, you know, I mean, I'm 42. Like your hair starts to not want to take color. And that's like where I'm starting to go, I'm gonna need to buy one of these like vibrant wigs because it's just not, you know, I'm end up having to shave it off anyway and go with that like short older woman haircut. And I'm trying to grow it out. But yeah, that's how I'm jealous. I'm jealous of the freedom that you have.
But like I said, though, it's nice to know and it's encouraging to know that, again, no matter your race, no matter your culture or background, you as an individual use your hair as a way to express yourself, you know? So that is dope in itself. Not many people can be creative in that way. And if they are, and again, it goes to shows the same with tattoos. Like it can be with anybody. Like you can just creatively express yourself through just however you wear your hair, your tattoo on this one side, as opposed to like, it's just nice to know.
I need to grow like the confidence to say, I don't really care if you saw me yesterday and my hair looked like this and now it looks like that today. That's where my insecurity lies. And that's where I'm jealous of the fact that I think culturally, all of my African-American friends have never, except for one, she's always been all natural, have never had an issue with rocking like 10, 20, they got like a collection of wigs. And I'm like, why can't I just get over myself? Because then it would make my life easier when I am going through that undercut growing out phase. Because, you know, personally, especially when we're going to be talking about mental health, it really plays heavy on you when you feel like people can look at you and be like, damn, what's wrong with her? She was rough.
And start judging right off the bat.
Just because your hair is not up to par, you know?
Right. Well, that goes into one of my first questions. Like, so with you growing up and everything, have you always encountered or been in these uncomfortable situations where you felt, I guess, small in a sense because you wanted to probably express yourself in certain ways, but didn't know how or couldn't? When it comes to, again, your hair or just how you are. And you mentioned before you're a singer. So like, was that something that, you know, played a role in your life that possibly like just pigeonholed you in a sense?
So I think, okay, so obviously from being from Trenton, right? Very culturally diverse. My neighborhood alone, extremely diverse. My best friend, you know, she's African American. So I think that I always kind of felt being in that environment, you're around so many different groups of people that, you know, I had, you know, my Jewish friends and, you know, everybody kind of just had this different style or different way about them. So I felt like I could relate to everybody. So you know how they call them like the punk rock kids and the hip hop kids and the skaters and but I was cool with everybody, you know. I still got made fun of a lot because I think I kind of grew up with this, you know, I think I was reincarnated and whoever I was in my past life was just born like out there, you know. Whether I was an entertainer in the past, just because I was born kind of with this idea that I will be whatever I feel like it and no one's going to stop me. But at the same time, I take that same sentence and say, I'm so worried what other people think that sometimes I do limit my outrageousness. So I'm like two sides of the spectrum. A lot of people will look at me and think, oh, you must be so confident because of the way I look. But they don't understand that it could take me hours to prepare myself for something like this because you go and you do your eyeliner and you're like, that one doesn't look good. Let me try this one. And next thing you know, you went from a thin line to this big line. And then, you know what I mean? It's like, why can't I just not wear makeup and be comfortable with that or what have you? So I think I've always cut my own hair and dyed my own hair. I've always been that girl that had like the Tony Hawk haircut or, the crazy, I started dyeing my hair too at a young age. And it's funny how we talk a lot about stigma and perception, right? So people would assume because my head underneath my hair was shaved, a lot of my aunts would come over for the holidays and they'd be like, you look like a skinhead, and I'm like, I'm the farthest thing from a skinhead, okay? And then, or it was like the total opposite. When I had the T-Boz haircut, they would call you like what was the word back then? A wigger or like a wannabe.
Or a wig or something.
Yeah.
A wigger.
And I always just was like, I'm just expressing myself. I would make my own clothes because if I couldn't find it at the store, I would imagine that this is what I wanted it to look like. I'd bust out the sewing machine and do my own thing. If I couldn't find a book bag that I felt like expressed me enough, I would actually make my own like book bag out of like a box and add glitter to it. And so I feel like I've always kind of just been trying to express myself. And it was also a form of rebellion against my dad, who would not let us leave the house looking the way we wanted to look. It was like, are you wearing makeup? Are you trying to wear shorts to school? You need to put on some pants.
Man.
So we used to hide like stuff in our book bags. Oh, if he hears this, he's gonna kill me. We would hide stuff in our book bags, and then when we would get to school, we would change.
Oh my God.
So at some point in time, I think that's my dad having 4 daughters and feeling like, God forbid somebody were try to date us or hit on us, he would be all overprotective. Sicilian man, that's just the way they are. But I feel like, I also would rebel against him as the one kid who would shave my own hair and dye it orange. And I would wear a hat around him, like a beanie, and tuck it all in. And he would walk in and just pull it right off my head and go, "What'd you do to your hair?" Like he knew right away I was trying to hide something.
They all expected this of you.
Yeah. Well, after a while, it just became, well, that's just Mimi, I think it took my dad a while to accept the fact that, my mom once said, "Are you a lesbian?" I was like, what is this coming from? And it's like the assumption if you dress a certain way, because I used to be a tomboy.
Or cut your hair a certain way.
Yes, because I had that Tony Hawk haircut. There was always like this assumption that there had to be something going on. And I'm like, no, I'm just expressing myself, like it doesn't mean anything. And I could change it up and do something totally different the next day and it doesn't mean anything. So yeah.
No, I get that. T, I don't know if you realized you're on mute. Did you know that?
Yes. I'm on mute. I am babysitting my friend's dog.
It's okay.
So the dog started barking because my doorbell rang, and it's just a lot.
And a dog.
I'm not going to lie to y'all. It's a lot going on around me right now. So,
it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. And you didn't get sleep. I get irritated when I don't sleep. I'm like super irritable. So like every little thing just gets me so fired up.
Yeah. No. And then like my phone is on mute, but then it rung. So luckily I was on mute because even though it's on the vibrate, it's it's still
going.
So, but yes, no, like I heard everything you said. And one thing like I wanted to ask you is, does that make you weird, or does that make like I just don't understand why people may say, well, you're weird or you're different, or you're like a lesbian, because that was unique to me. If if I didn't like a certain book bag, either I just kept that book bag or tried to go buy one that was fit into what I wanted. But you had the mind frame of, no, I'm going to make what I want to make, whether it be clothes or a book bag. So to me, that's unique. And then I think about like Eb and I, for so long, I felt like we were looked at as people who were like weird or like different. And it's like, were we really weird, or were you all not comfortable within yourself?
Yeah.
To think a certain way or to dress a certain way. Like I used to dress like Clueless sometimes.
Yeah.
I love it.
So
see, I agree. And so what is I always say now, like weird is cool because
everybody's trying to be weird. Intentionally.
So in today's world, you know how you're starting to see like things recycled for our generation. So like the 90s kids are coming back. And like these kids are listening to the music from our times, because I don't know about anybody else, but our music was the best music.
Yes.
But our generation had some of the stuff that like, built the foundation for what these kids are trying to do today. And, granted, every generation has their own thing and their own, like style of something that came out. But a lot of times it's recycled. And what cracks me up is, my parents will act like, oh, the way you're dressing, it makes you look some kind of way. But I'm like, hold up, didn't you guys go to Woodstock? Didn't people think that you were some kind of way because you were rocking bell bottoms and look like this or that? And my dad's like, yeah, I used to tour with a band and this, that, and the other. So where did you decide at what point when you became a parent that you were going to forget that you were once a kid?
Yeah.
And that you once had your own style and because I'm 42. Like I said, I have a 13-year-old son. I love the fact that he expresses himself.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to change that, but I think that's because I grew up being snuffed out, that I was like, I'm never going to do that to my kid, you know?
No, like I totally understand. I understand.
And not only that, telling him, who cares if somebody else at school makes fun of you? You know how much fun I got made fun of so much that it kind of broke me in the sense where, I felt like I had to start toning it down a notch.
Yep.
Especially when, I don't know if it's the same way for you, but when people of your own culture start tearing you up, and the people that aren't a part of your culture, like a lot of my African American friends, were like, we love you, girl. Keep doing you. And I don't know. Sometimes I felt like I got along with the people that were just as free-spirited, and it didn't matter what race we were, as long as we, accepted each other for who we were. And I was a raver at one point, which that whole community, it didn't matter who you were into, what you were into, what color you were, what gender you were.
I used to rave too, over at No Hope at the Edge.
There you go. And I think it opens up your mind to the fact that, you can kind of see past everything. And growing up in that kind of atmosphere, which again, to my parents, you went to Woodstock, which is like the original, most epic rave you could go to. So I'm like, listen, you can tell me all day long that you think I'm weird because I'm unique, as you said.
Yeah.
And it does get you do start wondering, is there something wrong with me? Because there's a very small group of people that are that willing to just go, let me dye my hair bright red. Yes. Because when I go to the store, there's some people that are like, oh my God, I love your hair. And then there's other people that are looking at me like, what is this ensemble?
It's so true though. It's so true. It's sad. It's almost sad too though, because again, we know that everybody's not the same. Everyone's not going to be the same, and that's what again makes us all unique. But it would make the world a better place if you didn't have anything nice to say, just don't say it at all. Just don't say it at all. But the faces, the expressions give way of everything. Like you said, people will look and be like, what the hell?
I'd rather you judge me in person, because I will call you out on it. I'm so like, I see you, like I see your face looking at me, and I know what you're thinking.
Yeah, like
whereas like over the internet, people are so quick to just be like, bam, 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 because they're not facing you. And I always say, come say that to me in person, because chances are you won't. Like this younger generation is all really quick to judge and say stuff to one another and rip each other to pieces. But I'm like, listen, if you said that to me as a kid, I'd be like, we're going outside. I'm gonna knock you out. Let's go.
You're right,
like,
though.
get into fist fights, and then your parents would be like, what happened at school today? Heard you got into a fight. And it was just, my dad would say, like, did you knock him out? Did you kick him in the butt? Like, nowadays it's like, I will sue you. You said that about my daughter. And then it's like, now kids are getting expelled for saying words.
Yes.
There's not even busting out the fist. They don't even know how to stick up for themselves. That's a whole nother mental health subject, because I feel like it messes kids up. Like, go outside and play. Quit playing all them video games. Because if you went outside and you did life, socializing, riding your bike like a gang until the lights went out outside, you would learn real life experiences and how to deal with people face to face.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think like we talk about this sometime. Like kids, they don't know how to be kids. Like it's just the inside. That's all, and then it's hard to get them out. And they don't want to,
especially with the pandemic.
But even before the pandemic, them were like this, and it's hard to push them out, and then they don't want to communicate because the cell phones have taken.
They don't know how to.
They don't.
So it's just like, well, go outside and go meet someone new in your neighborhood. Well,
they look at you like you're crazy. What do you mean?
They don't want to talk, but they will look at you as their parent or superior and be like, man, they just speak so freely to these people. How do they do it? And that goes to show the same when it comes to just regular people looking at us because we want to wear our hair a certain way. Instead of them saying, how did you do it? Or I like how you did it. It's automatic of, I don't want to do it like that. Why you did like, you know what I mean? It's always a negative rather than certain people just don't know how to be positive.
I think a lot of it too is life experience, like I said, with getting outside and learning how to deal with people face to face. Like there was I'm not going to say my childhood was like, outside of my house. I felt like I dealt with just as much drama and, trauma per se, just trying to prove myself in the sense to, my first experience with racism personally, I think the way I dealt with it was, hell no, you are not going to just come at me and try and pick out, I will whoop your ass, period, because that's the way I was raised. And if you're going to put me in a corner and poke your finger at me, I'm not just going to be scared of you because you're nose to nose and telling me, what are you going to do, little skinny white cracker? Because at the end of the day, I whooped this girl's butt. She was like 3 times the size as me. And then all of a sudden, the next day I come into school and everyone's like, Mike Tyson. And I gained the respect of all of these people that were making fun of me because I was an easy target. And I felt like this whole other side of the community at first that used to look at me as the weird little scrawny skinny girl with crazy hair was like, oh shit, don't mess with me. And that's not taught to kids today. They don't know how to stand up for themselves on all sides. And, even though we've made so much progress and, with the LGBT community and this, that, we've also taken so many steps back because of the internet. Because of the ability to just get lost in your cell phone and social media, because now everyone's living this life of, let me post this perfect picture, let me post this perfect life of mine, and they're not showing the struggle and how they got through their life, which, my son looks at me like you guys said, he'll be like, how are you so social with people? And that comes with life experience, but that doesn't mean that I don't get anxious. That I'm not stuck in my own head while I'm talking to somebody.
While you're talking,
these are things that you overcome and you tackle so that you can live your best life. So I'm like, don't let this person who's judging you or saying something to you put you in this little shell where you kind of crumble up and then just stay in your room, and then you think all people are like this.
Yeah.
Because that's not, that's not healthy. I was that way really as a young kid. Social anxiety, I think, kind of prevented me at first from making friends. Not to mention a lot of people in the neighborhood. I don't know if you remember this, Ebony, but they
Sure
would
I
see me.
do.
The parents would see me sitting outside in my self-made clothes and my outlandish stuff, and they'd be like telling their kids, "You cannot play with that girl. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Something is wrong with her. She's not right." And then I remember smoking cigarettes in my rebellious phase. I stole my mom's Virginia Slims. And I'd be outside like 12 years old trying to smoke a cigarette before my dad would come home and whip my butt. I would be like, the bad kid in the neighborhood, the rebel. But on the inside, I was the shy, kind of self-conscious, like kind of screaming like, "Hey, I need some real friends in my life that accept me for who I am,"
You probably just got it at all angles of, again, like you said, don't play with that girl, or why is she over there smoking, or like, all the, again, the negatives, rather than saying, hey, she may not be so bad. Let me go check
You just got to find your crowd. You got to find your people.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's not that you were bad, because 9 times out of 10, the kids probably was doing it on the low.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
Like
just
that
living it out loud.
Yeah.
Like you did things out loud, but they were doing it undercover.
Or they were jealous because they wanted to do it and they couldn't do it because their mental fear was, "Oh, I'm going to be judged," or what have you. So you get it from all sides.
I did want to ask, because it kind of goes back into, you kind of touched the topic that I'm really anxious to know. You mentioned racism and how, so a lot of people, I want to hear this, because you mentioned racism and what has been said to you and how you handled it for yourself. Again, being a different background of us, a different culture and everything. But can we remind people that you are in fact Sicilian? Before we conversation.
And honestly, there is absolutely nothing I could say other than my ancestors at one point in time, yes, they were slaves. They were categorized as colored. There's all of that. But at one point, there was a deal made between the white man and the Sicilians, which was, hey, your skin color is light enough to get away with being white. But as long as because we were seen as gangsters, it portrayed that way in movies and mobsters. And so I think that there was some sort of deal made at one point in time that was just like, hey, if you want to pass for a white person and get the privileges that come with that, you need to get your shit together. And then they were like, whoop, and they changed the category. And then it was like, oh, okay, so now we're white and we see the privilege that comes with that. But see, for me, the way I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey, and seeing and dealing with racism as a white person, but also being so diverse with what I was surrounded by, I didn't understand it. I was just like, I was dealing with it from all angles because there were people that would still look at me as a Sicilian and they would call you a wop, or there's so many cultures that won't allow you to date outside of your culture. They'll have what is it called? Prearranged weddings. And so racism exists even against, white people, but it's nowhere near as bad as it is for you guys. And I think that what I have experienced, and I could probably name every single situation I have experienced, that's the difference. I could sit here and name every situation I have experienced and how I've dealt with it, whereas it's every single day for you guys. Whether it's happening or not, sometimes it's behind the scenes. We talked about that a little bit, and about using your privilege to kind of take action. But I think that I feel so comfortable talking about racism and race because of the way I was brought up, and my perception of it is different because of where I was, where I grew up and where I'm from.
Diverse.
Right. And I think that the way I dealt with it was as a person. For me, it wasn't a race. I was being disrespected as a person by another person. And her saying to me, whatever it was like, she thought I was trying to steal her man, like all these things. The cracker part wasn't what really pissed me off. You know what I'm saying? Yes, it was a form of racism, but I think what really got to me and what made me snap was I was getting tired of getting picked on and seen as a weakness. And then not only seen as a weakness because, you know, there was a gang of African American girls who were like, we're going to pick on this one little skinny white girl. And I was like, listen, I don't care what color you are or what you think that, you know, you are versus me or that. Like, I am a human being. You're going to disrespect me. You'd be surprised what I'm capable of doing when you push me to a certain extent. And I think previous to that, I witnessed them bully so many white girls, beat them up and get away with it because the white girls were afraid of the black girls simply because of their color. And, you know, vice versa. It was like there was so much of that going on back and forth where, you know, I think that what put it different for me was just how I dealt with it was more of like on a person to person level. I don't think we didn't touch on this before when we spoke, Ebony, but at one point in time, I was stabbed in my neck in class by a young man, young African American man that in general, it didn't matter what color or who I was a female. And he wanted me to sit in his lap because he was a pervert, period. Nothing to do with race, right? And we had a substitute teacher and we had a full class. I will never forget this. It was computer class. And, you know, we were one of the first schools to have a metal detector besides what, Trenton High? So that also puts it in perspective. Like when I tell people that, they're like, excuse me, what? Where the hell did you go to school? Jail? So, you know, he pulled this knife out. He grabbed me and like the way I have a scar still to this day, people will think it's a hickey when I get it some sun. The knife melted into my neck to the point where I couldn't feel it was so sharp, but the blood, I felt the heat of the blood. I didn't want to see it. I felt the heat of it going down my shirt. And the way that me and my family dealt with that is something that I don't think a lot of people in the world really think is something that should be focused on. And this is what happened. Instead of my dad going, oh my gosh, an African-American boy stabbed my daughter, we're going to send him, you know, to jail and just deal with it. Instead, his father came to school with him. We all sat in the principal's office. His father explained to my father that his son was being bullied. Every single day he would try and just get home and he would have his sneakers stolen, his book bag stolen, and his money stolen, you know, and he gave his son this knife as a form of protection because it was getting so bad that he was more disappointed in his son for using that knife in the way that he used it with me and could have really hurt me. You have like a main artery right here. But he was so mentally distraught, I think, that, you know, you start acting out and doing certain things. And just having that conversation as a white family with a, you know, black family in a room together, they wanted, what's the solution going to be? Are you going to press charges? And we didn't want to ruin his life because after hearing his story and understanding, as a person who was getting bullied myself, you know, you hit this level of we're human beings, let's come to a solution. And we decided that we would have all of our classes changed and that we would not have to walk down the hallway at the same time. But we had a choice as a family, right, to really put him in a position where he may have gone down a path that, you know, we unfortunately see a lot of African Americans, you know, go down, especially in Trenton, where you might not have the same resources as a white person. You know, boys don't seek help as often, men as often as women. So whatever he was going through, he was acting out. He wasn't seeking, you know, the proper help or letting people know what was going on because he was a big dude. Nobody wants to look weak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in sitting there and having this conversation with him, I realized that, you know, now as an adult, one day I got a phone call and the call was the local police department because even though we didn't put in we didn't press charges, there was like a special kind of order that we had to get in order to switch the classes and not cross paths in the hallway. It's not quite a restraining order, but He wanted to be a police officer. And they had to call anyone that has ever had a negative experience that was put on record. And so then you have this, here we are in the future. And do I think that he's still capable of, stabbing somebody or doing this or that? And again, it has nothing to do with race. As a human being, we're all capable of changing and learning. But, in today's world, right, I think it's unfortunate that a lot of times race gets quickly involved. And it's assumed that, we're just going to go ahead and put this person away because they're bad all around. They're all from the ghetto, or they're all a certain race. I think if we can all just sit down and have a conversation about what's really going on, it's a lot different. So when it comes to racism, there's straight on racist experiences that I've had, and there's others where it has nothing to do with color. It's just we're both going through something or what have you. And being able to recognize that, I truly think it's because of where I'm from and my experiences and living in Trenton versus where else I could have been born. You know what I mean? I think I'm thankful for that. It's also frustrating because you talk with a lot of people who grew up in an all white town or an all black town or an all Asian community.
Yeah.
And to them, all of this is like foreign, and that's just, they don't understand each other's culture, nor do they want to. And that's, it really does kind of, it's a mindset, it's taught. People aren't, educating one another. They want to be blind. And then we talk a lot about white privilege and people thinking that doesn't exist. To me, that's the most ridiculous thing to say because it's obvious it exists, It's just a matter of what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it to help? Versus, sitting back quietly and silently is doing absolutely nothing.
To you.
Yeah. That in itself is white privilege. Yeah. That in itself, right? Being able to just go, it ain't my problem. Yes, it is. Yeah. It's all about, until everybody understands we're one race, one love, like that is everybody's problem. Everybody's problem.
Oh man.
I'm talking a lot. Girl, you need to tell me to slow down.
Oh, you good, girl. You good. I'm just taking this all in.
Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, how often do you guys actually get to speak to, a white? She always reminds me, maybe you're Sicilian, yes. But in the society's eyes, right? I'm a white person.
Yeah.
Although I do get asked often if I'm mixed because, again, if you're from Trenton, you naturally have a booty. Must be something in the water. But I think that between my
Trenton booties.
I mean, as if like white people can't have booties, which cracks me up because I see some of my, African American women that are so flat, and I'm just like, it's not just a cultural thing. I just think it's genes, but see, again, that is a stereotypical thing to say.
Yeah.
But it used to be so comfortable and assume that all white girls talk like, oh my gosh, Becky, look at her butt. It's like so big because we all assumed that Black girls had big booties and that was it. So it's, back in the day, clearly we all kind of made light of racism or the uncomfortable truth and reality. And it made it, that's why comedians, they could talk about it blatantly. Yeah. Nowadays, everyone's so sensitive. God forbid I said something like, now they want to remove the song from the radio.
Yep.
Now they're going back and erasing history. It's like,
I am so over how things are done now.
I am too.
Yeah, between music, artistry, freedom of expression, everything at the end of the day is being censored in a sense that it's like, then how are we supposed to talk about it? This needs to happen more often because then you would understand.
Like you just asked us, how often do we have these conversations? I don't know the last time, except from when I spoke to you beforehand doing all of this,
and we learned so much from each other.
With the opposite, or not opposite sex. I mean, the opposite of,
race.
Cultures and races. I've not sat down with anyone, and it is actually very frustrating because I have a biracial family.
Mhm.
My entire family is biracial, just about. And
do you feel like you have to pick a side depending on what's happening?
No. I don't do that. And it's so funny you said that, because I recall when I started this magazine, there was a lot of pushback on certain family members in my family that was just like, oh, I don't know if I could support. I don't know if I can this. I don't know if I can that. And to me, it was like, are you not supporting because it's talking about the Black communities, or are you not supporting because it's me? I'm trying to understand which one it is, because at the end of the day, I feel like, and it could just wholeheartedly be me. I feel like if you want to support someone, you may not always agree, but you can support them through it and just be like, but I don't want to put my hand in, like, you could say, you can do that. You could say that. However, in this case, it was a point where I just had to take it and accept it as if someone really does not like something, you cannot dig into finding out why they don't like it if they're not open to expressing it, because them themselves may not know why they don't like it. It may be because somebody else may be putting bugs in the ears, or or they just have a feeling of, I don't like this because everyone in the world should be able to get along, but the reality is we should, but we're not.
You're not, yeah.
Yeah, and that's with anything from religion to, like we
even
talk
politics.
A lot about, yes. And I think that a lot of times, if we all just sat at the table and put all of your, I don't want to call it hate, because it's something that's embedded in you from a child, or at some point in your life, you shift the way your brain thinks, and you think that that word never say never, or the phrase never say never. I used to hate when my parents would say that, but it's so true. It's not even funny, because the other thing is, we talked a little bit about this before. My family went and got one of those ancestry tests. Okay, this is where I'm like, who is really even white anymore? So talk about white privilege. It's easy for you to walk around like this, you know what I'm saying? But go ahead and go do your, I suggest this to anybody listening that thinks they're white.
Yeah.
Just because of their skin color. And you will find out that we are all extremely mixed, because there's really no such thing. Think about where we came from when we came to America. Like, there's so many things that happened, and how it happened and why it happened. There were so many wrongdoings between white men raping Black women. But it stems back so far that at this point, I think it was National Geographic magazine said the future of race, and they all looked like light skin, a little bit of freckle, little mini afros, but they were like a kind of an ashy blonde. And it was like, what if we all look like this? Because that's where we're headed. And then you've got these groups, though, that still exist. We know they do, where they try to interbreed to keep their bloodline clean. You know what I'm saying? And that's the kind of stuff that scares me. Is like that underground, I think it's the culture Amish type stuff.
That, right?
What is it? The Amish?
Yeah, I think the Amish does that.
Yeah,
I know there's some in Tennessee. When I was at this midwifery school, they were telling me that it's an Amish community out there, and they actually like,
I mean, but there's people like that in the Asian community, in the Indian community, where they will not marry anyone who is of a certain mix or a religion. Like, they have to be almost like exactly the same, which is, culturally, I feel like I watched a Netflix show, I think, there was an Indian woman who was breaking out of that cycle, that mindset. She had moved to New York, and she realized when she was out of her house and her family's kind of control of, like, who you date, who you see, and then why, like it was against their God's beliefs, or you were sinning, or whatever it may be, or just having your whole family disown you simply because you're interested in somebody of a different color or mixed. So it's interesting to see that there's even people in those cultures that are like, wait a minute,
Yep.
I really like this person. I don't see that they have
There's
a different
nothing wrong
religion
with
or a
them.
different
Yep.
right. And I think that, somewhere down the line, when you go in and you check yourself, you will find, like, if we found out we had South African, Northern African, which is not surprising because
yeah,
Sicilian, stems from the Moors, and there's a whole, we could go down that whole path. But, then I've got European, and then there's a little bit of Asian, and there's Middle Eastern. So, when people say, oh, those Middle Easterners, they're the ones who do all the bombings. I'm just like, you know what? Shh.
yeah.
Or all of the people that do the shootings and so on and so forth, they all have, schizophrenia. I'm like,
yeah.
Because just to generalize anything is ignorance in itself. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just a matter of just going like how I grew up. I'm just gonna experiment with everything and learn all of the things, and then you kind of figure out what works for you, who your tribe is, which could be made up of anyone and everybody. I just think that if more people thought that way and were open to that, the only way that's going to happen is if our children get outside more. But I also think that they are the generation of change. But I feel like we kind of led it up to that a little bit. We gave them some stepping stones. But then, of course, you have, we're not going to get into politics, but I feel like politics really rolled us into setting us back in our progress. But also that blatant racism. That blatant racism gave all of the racists an excuse to come out of the woodwork, thinking, oh, it's our time to shine. And then, you know what I mean? And then it was like, your culture was like, oh, you guys think this is new? Just because you're seeing it now because social media. But we've been telling you that this has been happening for years. But then you have people who are seeing it and they want to do something about it. So it's kind of like a catch-22. Trying to figure out the pros and the cons. Right.
Because if you think about the George Floyd case currently, I don't understand why they're having such a long trial for this cop.
It shouldn't be this long.
That is the one thing that makes me angry about the people who say, oh, well, he was a crackhead or he was a drug addict. I'm like, I was a drug addict. Does that mean that I automatically deserve to die if I'm getting high and I write a fake check? And I wrote a fake check once. I had to go to class. I had to go through this whole process. But if my skin color was different, I would be in jail for fraud.
Wow.
But acknowledging that, right, is what comes first. And the fact that people didn't even want to acknowledge that he was a living human being who makes mistakes, nothing to do with color. Who cares if he was a drug addict? Was it okay from one human to another to sit there with your knee on his neck
on somebody's
for
neck?
8
and everybody
minutes?
knows. It was like everybody knows your airways.
But not only that, they're trained. Police officers. There are police officers out there who were trained. They're trained not to do that maneuver because of your jugular, because of your airways. And I think that also assuming that all cops are bad is that whole generalization, because there are cops out there that were like, whoa,
what are you doing?
I would never do that. In situations where, oh, this man was drunk and he grabbed his taser and then he ran and then they shot him. I'm like, hold up, he was drunk. Why don't you just put him in the back seat of the car and take his ass home?
But one thing I will say, he did a responsible thing by pulling over, sitting in a parking lot, sleep.
Yep.
He was doing nothing wrong. And it's
nothing wrong.
It's upsetting when people say, but he was drunk. He could have killed somebody.
He didn't do anything but
again, he was parked on the side.
Right.
He wasn't doing anything. And then
somebody could have harmed him before he harmed somebody else.
Harmed them, And then even with George Floyd, I think it came to find out that the stuff wasn't fake. And then
Mhm.
and since they've been having a trial, it also came out that the medical guy like who did I guess like he looked over him, all that stuff, he had nothing in his system. It was nothing that
Stop.
yeah.
So they made that but they do that. The media does that because they know that the general population will go, "Oh, he was just a drug addict."
Yep.
I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
Yeah, if you go back, like they said that there was nothing causing, like as far as drugs that would have made him die.
So yeah. Hello, his damn knee was why. This makes
Simple as
me
that.
so upset still to this day that I usually don't talk about this stuff, you guys. I'm not
I
gonna
try
lie.
not to also, sorry.
And it's not no. This is me saying I'm glad that we can have these conversations because it's important for you and your culture to know, and I'm sure you two know this, that there are people like myself out there that are like, this is wrong. Like, we know it's wrong. We're trying to do something about it. It's not, just like people say, it's not a generalization saying all, Black people come from the ghetto. They're all drug dealers. They're all, you know what I'm saying? Like, when people talk like that, it's either you have never physically sat down and gotten to know other cultures. You've not exposed yourself to life enough. You've been stuck in the ways that you've been raised in, or whatever you wanted to expose yourself to, or you're just watching the news too much because the news knows how to play you all against one another. And another thing is, I grew up not watching or not wanting to watch TV. And this is why I say I think I was reincarnated as somebody who knew that the TV couldn't be trusted, that it was evil, that it will brainwash you. This is what I used to tell my own parents as a child. They will tell you I was like the craziest kid. I used to write them letters, like full page letters on my thoughts on the world that they still have to this day. And my perception as a kid was, you're all staring at this TV, watching this news, and I haven't seen one positive thing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything that's good that's happening in the world. And when you sit there and you absorb that nonstop all the time, even the commercials, they're geared towards a certain, the movies that you're watching, all of these things get to the point where, I didn't have a TV in my own house. I grew up in my 20s, living in my own apartment with no TV. It was not until, and even my son was raised without a TV until we moved here to Arizona and met my husband. And it gets really hot here in the summers. And you tend to do the opposite of what they do on the East Coast, where y'all stay inside in the wintertime and bundle up and snuggle up. And then all these babies are born 9 months later. It's the opposite. It's the opposite here. So for 3 months in the summer, most people do what we're used to doing on the East Coast. And then a lot of that is, nowadays watching Netflix. But I'm fully aware still, and definitely filtering what I watch and what I expose myself to. And I talk to my son a lot about that, because for the longest time, this kid thought, if you're wearing a uniform, you have made an oath to help the people. And he would say things like, why would a police officer hurt someone on purpose? Or why would a priest molest a child? Or he would ask me these questions, and I would be like, because human beings, no matter what you're wearing, who you are, what color you are, can be evil, period. It doesn't matter. And then to assume that, for him to assume that all these people, that just because they had on a uniform, they weren't allowed to do these things. I think in that moment, and having that discussion with me, he realized, wow, the world is definitely a lot more complicated than I thought about 5 seconds ago. And I'm like, I'm sorry I had to drop that reality check on you, son. But if I didn't tell you the truth, I'm not doing you any good.
Found out a different way, yep.
Yeah, I'm like, go ahead and play your video games, but no, the more that you're sitting there killing people online, the more your brain is going to absorb this mentality. I'm like, but just making yourself aware of that and making your child aware of that, I think is step one in knowing that you can't believe everything that you see. They manipulate clips. They manipulate what they say. True. they feed out this information, and then
Listen, the
you
amount
know,
of editing that has been taking
oh,
place,
A lot.
especially in 2020,
A lot.
people had
and then you
time
have all
on
the
their
people
hands.
that think they're
People had
detectives.
time on their hands.
The whole world's out there then trying to be detectives, and they're like, "Did you see that camera angle? Did you see that?" And then they start thinking they got it all figured out, and like they got this
Yes.
conspiracy theory, and then you're like, man, you guys all just need to get a life.
So I did want to bring up real quick, it kind of changes the topic just a little bit, but like I know we were speaking about how fast 2021 is going right now.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
As compared to 2020. And I wanted to ask you both, like, how are you handling that shift? Because everybody felt the shift. And it is weird because it's like, it's somewhat well, at least I can speak for myself. It feels somewhat positive, but it's still like okay, I'm trying to hold on right now. Like there's so much going on and I'm not I feel like my feet are not planted.
Yeah.
Like, how are you guys dealing and coping with that? T, you can go first if you'd like.
I was gonna say you go first because I have an idea.
She's so funny. She's so funny.
Or I could go, whoever.
I mean, if you want to start first, Eb, and then
So like I said, I don't think I'm coping with it.
yeah.
I think I'm just going with the flow. And that has been my term since my birthday. I'm just gonna flow with it, y'all. Like whatever happens.
Mhm.
Because I'm used to being the one that's so organized, so planned out. Everything is and right now I'm just like, I don't know what to plan anymore. I don't know how to. So when the kids are asking me, okay, mommy, what time are we? I'm like, whatever time we get started. I don't know the answer, guys. I'm sorry. It feels like so much pressure. And like I said, 2020 felt so chill to me, like so relaxed, so laid back. And now it's like everybody's bum rushing to get this world started up again. And I'm like, hold on, like, can we just pump our brakes for 1 minute? Like, so I don't think I'm coping, but I'm here.
You're here. Well, you're here and you're existing, just gotta move. I guess as people say, like move past just existing and then start to do like the living part and just but continue to go with the flow. And that's what I'm trying to do. 2020 started off rocky just before COVID even happened for me. But then as it was going in, it was just so much and just family and friends. And it was just a lot and work. So it was like, I was always running. And so like the end of 2020, like I got sick and it kind of just sat me down a little bit to make me realize like what was important. And it was like, okay, now you need to really focus on you. Yes, your daughter, yes, everybody else, but you in particular first. So then as 2021 has been coming in, that's something I've been trying hard to do. But some days I'm like Eb, it's like, okay, I'm gonna let things flow. But then some days I feel like I do have to put a rush on certain things, but also just trying to take the time to just slow my brain down first. Because yeah, it is. You gotta, like, you really gotta work at it. I mean, really slow it down first, and then just focus on what I can do. And if I can't do it that day, then it just won't get done. And
not feeling guilty about it.
And not feeling guilty because I'm like, even with cleaning in the house, take room by room per day. If you don't try to do everything in one day. I mean, that's if, like things are put certain places. So I'm just like, take room by room. Each day, pick a room that is your task for the day. And then you may have a little bit more energy to do another room, but you did that first thing. So yeah, that's what I've been trying to work on.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
I think both of you have said some things just now that like resonates with me so much. So, Ebony, we'll start with you. And I'm going to take my own advice when I say this. I just had this conversation with my doctor. A lot of times, me being an empath, I want to help other people so badly that, like you put yourself last, right? So both of you have to see it from my perspective, which is you just told me that your show that you just started in 2020 was hitting a bigger platform. So right off the bat, this is what I'm gonna say. We are way too hard on ourselves as not only women, but as mothers. We are way too hard on ourselves that we think that just because we didn't complete a task that she was talking about, breaking it down into rooms, that just because we are missing something that we're failing, but we forget that, all the progress and all the work, you weren't just sitting around in 2020. I don't care how chill you were. Maybe it felt that way because you were in your pajamas more often.
Yeah.
But girl, your brain has built your own new empire. That in itself is something that I want to call 2020 is not just the year of reality check. It became the year of entrepreneurism because it made everybody step back from this go. Even though you're still going,
that dance, go.
Yeah, even though you're still going, you're going with a different kind of passion, which when you start doing things in life that you either before didn't think you had time to do, or before you always dreamt about doing, or before, you know what I'm saying? When you start working towards something you're passionate about, you love doing, it takes a little longer to feel exhausted because you're so excited. You might not realize that or not, but and then it also, you get harder on yourself because you're making this progress and you're reaching these goals and you're seeing this success kind of get to this place that you don't want to stop the momentum. But 2020 was a long ass year.
It was.
And what's happened is all of that work you put in during that time frame, now it's saying, okay, you're serious because the world is going back to normal. So are you ready for launch? Because you have everything you need. You ready to take off?
Yeah, no, she's right.
Right.
You're fearing your own dreams coming true. And that is so natural when it starts to happen. You almost go, am I ready for this? Can I do this? Do I have the confidence? Am I prepared?
Yeah.
You start doubting yourself that you don't have what it takes when you've already built those stepping stones to get you there. Like you're reaching this whole other level of your own personal career. On top of that, there's goals and things that you just achieved with helping someone birth a child, which is huge. And it's okay to be tired. It's okay to take a day. Not only is it okay, that is why I am now so mentally unstable, is because I allowed myself for years to put that pressure on myself to make sure everybody else was okay. That one day my body said, you know what, you need to stop ignoring yourself and putting everybody else first, because now you're broken and this ain't a vacation. This is you having to leave work because you're not okay. And now I look at it like this. I can't be there for my son and be the best mom. I can't be there for my husband and be the best wife. I can't be there for my own little business that I started unless my shell that carries me through life is the best it can be. The way I eat, the way I sleep, whether I'm working out or not. But it's okay to miss that good meal and splurge and eat some ice cream. It's okay to not work out this day, that day, a week, a month. As long as, like she said, you're tackling those one little room at a time. And if you have a little bit of energy, maybe you can go into like a room and a half, but allowing yourself and reminding yourself, A, how far you've come, B, that you're good enough to get to where you're going now because you built that momentum. And then C, it's okay to take a damn breath. Because you thought you were chilling, but no, you weren't. Between the society exhausting your brain every day, between the pandemic and the illness and the concerns that come with that, building your own business and your own little empire, being a mom, dealing with all these things, like give yourself some credit.
It's so crazy because I'd be quick to tell this to other people, but to hear it.
Yeah.
That's you
It's the
being an
hardest
empath.
thing.
I said that before we got started, that this is me also giving myself the same advice, because I just did what Talaya said. She was like, hey, you need to put yourself first. I literally gave that advice in somebody's post this morning, right after waking up. She was being hard on herself as a mother. And then on the next swipe, it was like she has a son that struggles with ADHD, and I can relate. She had this whole thing written on a board. And I said, you know what you need to add at the bottom of that board is you're awesome, even when you're failing. Because it's a step, no matter what, in the right direction. As long as you're trying your hardest, you're doing your best, you have good intentions, you're a good person, you know what I mean? There's really no reason to go, damn, why I can't take a break, because then I'm not doing what I need to be doing. That's not true. A break needs to happen. And not just because your body's telling you, yo, you're tired, stop running. You need to call your own breaks.
Yeah.
You need to start putting break in your own schedule.
And if that alarm.
And that's sad, but it's true that you start to get so busy in life that you write everybody else in the book. Why not write yourself in there?
That's true.
You know?
That's very true.
So
listen,
getting to that point.
it's a day-by-day process, and just to add on, it's just to be gentle with yourself.
Yes,
with all of us, anybody
yes,
watches. So
a big hug.
So us three women, but then also for anybody else like who watches this, be gentle, kind, and understanding to yourself first.
Right. Just like you are to everybody else around
just like you are to yep. Good point.
Somebody else is crying, somebody else is broken. The same words of encouragement and like it's positive affirmations. If you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself and you're like, damn, I got no sleep last night, I'm gonna have a rough day, and you set the tone for the rest of the day, right? Yeah. But if you look at yourself and you're like, damn, I didn't get sleep last night, but that's okay. Not every night's gonna be like that. You got this. You were working hard yesterday. You know, you change your perspective.
You gotta change
Y'all would be so
change the
proud.
narrative.
Y'all would be so proud, because before getting started with this, I looked in the mirror. I'm like, okay, Eb, you look
see.
I made this whole song out of it, and I'm like, yo, I'm crazy, but I felt better.
Yes.
Because I literally was being my goofy, silly self. And Tia will tell you, sometimes she'll be like, Eb, go dance. Go do whatever it is you gotta do to feel it
out.
Like just
Because dancing helps me literally just get back to me. But it's amazing to know that we can still be encouraging to one another regardless of who you are. Like, you may not even have known me from a can of paint, Mimi, or even you, Talaya, but you guys could still put that into me. Like, thank you.
Because sometimes when you're in it, you don't see it. When you're in it and you're running and you're going, like I've had to learn this from my own doctor. I go to a trauma therapist, and she knows what I do for a living. She knows the way I am. And I'll come in there and I talk about all the things that I, either forgot or couldn't do, or, like I'll start, what's the word where you're like fixated on all of the negative things. And
I forgot the word it's called too.
Like negative self-talk, or there's something else.
Perception. But I can't say it right. But it'll keep like festering.
And it'll like keep me up at night. Like I gotta list all the things that I missed rather than all the lists of all the things that I've done. So I think what really puts it in perspective for me, especially today, because I feel like it's a theme, is that it's also been the year of, hey, we need to focus on self-help. Because mental illness has gotten so bad in the last year. It has, I want to say it has doubled for the African American community, and suicide has like quadrupled. Ironically, it's gone down in the white person, I guess, it used to be, it was like 33% of the rate went up from 1999 all the way up to 2019. So it was like the top 10 reasons why people die. But I think that just this last year alone, what has been the pressure that your community has been feeling is also because, you know, a lot of times you're not given the same opportunities to the same resources. A lot of them are men. I know that the larger percentage of men are the ones anyway, no matter what race, that are successfully committing suicide. But if you think about, you know, the men in your culture, you're not allowed to look weak.
Yeah.
You know, the families, even Asian families, they don't believe in mental illness. They're like, stop crying, shake it off, be a man, get over it, you know. When no, it's like they have emotions. We need to talk about this stuff. So as much as I'm an advocate for mental health with women, I feel like, you know, I was in an institution for 12 weeks. And although I wasn't there overnight, it was only during the day from like 8 to 5. I noticed that out of all the women that were there, there was only, you know, 2 men. And I asked why. I was like, why are there so many women here? And they were like, because women don't succeed at committing suicide as often as men. Number one. Number two, men don't seek help like women do. Men don't go to the doctors anywhere near as much as women do. You know, like we'll go to the gynecologist once a year. We go to the dentist, all these things. But men, like, they'll go years with ailments that they know they've got. Oh, my back, oh, my foot, I gotta, you know, and we're like, you need to see a doctor. You need to go see a doctor, you know, that. And at the end of the day, you know, I feel like this year is a reflection on the fact that, you know, you really need to be there for each other. You need to focus on self-care, you know, do what it is you really want to do in life, because it's short, which you guys are tackling, you know, but you've also been running nonstop, just like me. We're all running nonstop. And now the world is like, it's almost like watching gears skip, and then they start kind of rotating together, and then you add a little lubrication, and it's like it's working, and then all of a sudden they want to get in and take the machine, and you're like, wait, hold up, are you sure this is gonna work? Did I put that gear in properly? Yes, you did. And now it's time to just
relax and
trust yourself. You gotta trust yourself.
Listen.
So many things.
Yes, and I thank you for this. I really appreciate it all. I took in so much. It was a pleasure meeting you. If I'm in,
you as well.
if I am in Arizona, I was there last year.
You better hit me up.
I will hit you up.
I honestly think, and I told Ebony this because I know she said the same thing. I honestly think that she and I spoke for like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yes.
And even though, you know, you knew my sisters growing up and we're from the same town, there's still so much that we don't know about each other. There was like a small level of like comfort knowing, hey, we come from the same town and you know my little sister. But, you know, there's also, you know, with everything going on, it was kind of shocking how much we had in common. Partially not shocking because you're like, oh, you know, we're both from Trenton, but partially shocking because we realize that no matter what, you know, race you are or where you are in the world, we're all feeling the same kind of way, but from a different perspective and a different position. So it definitely has been awesome to the point where if you came out here, I'd be like, yo, we need to get together.
We go get together.
Absolutely. We are. So I do know that I gotta start wrapping this up. I'm sorry, guys. But before we go, Mimi, if you want to, you know, let everybody know, I mean, I'm gonna obviously put it out there too, but let everybody know how they can follow you, what you may have coming up in the Arizona area. If anyone is out there traveling out there, I do have a couple of followers or ones that listen that live in Arizona, so they may want to pop out. So you can go ahead and tell everybody what it is you got going now.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess in the beginning we dove right in. So one of the things we're gonna backtrack real quick. When I lost my job due to getting sick, it was also a blessing. So I work for myself now, and it's been a challenge, but it's obviously rewarding. So I run social media for a couple businesses. I run my own business for my husband, which is a detailing business. But I've always done events. And one of the things that I've really been focusing on is doing more events that are related to mental health awareness. I always do automotive events to help the community, charity events, fundraisers, be it, feeding the hungry. We have one coming up on April 25th that's going to help with foster care for dogs that have lost maybe their owner to a sickness or the military, so many things. But they can follow me on my Instagram page, which is literally how I do everything. Instagram is such a huge, business kind of, what's the word I'm thinking of? It really, if you're a business person, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, so my Instagram page is at rad or die. And the story behind that is because if it's not rad, it's going to die. It just dies out slowly over time. So keep it rad no matter what you're doing. But yeah, so between that and doing the content creation, all of that stuff, a lot of times most of it's behind the scenes, but putting together and organizing events is a true passion of mine. So if you ever see an event being posted on my page and you are in the area, of course, come out and say hi.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do have a little bit of social anxiety, but I have my dog Jade with me. But it does not mean that you can't come up to me and talk to me, because clearly I will talk your ear off once I get started.
Listen, it was amazing today. Like, I feel like it's so funny because, like I said in the email that we send out, we will give all these topics or like questions, but sometimes it just never goes. Like, we don't like to go by script either. So I just like to let it. I told you I've been letting things flow lately.
Just let it flow.
Let it flow.
So that was one of the birthing songs that came on, like that the mom had playlist, and that helped her get that baby down. So I just wanted to say that I thank you, ladies, for everything.
Absolutely.
You as well. I honestly think that this has probably been, so podcasting seems to be a huge boosted 2020. This is the third one I'm going to be on, but it probably, no offense to the first one I was on, but I feel like, instead of focusing on like one subject, I really liked the freedom of just watching where the conversation goes.
Yeah.
Because my brain works that way. I hear something and I want to go on that whole subject.
And that's us too. Our minds are just like ping, 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 like ping pong. And we just literally like to go with it. And of course, there'll be times I'll bring us back to one other one. But nonetheless, it was all great. And I love to hear that. Like, I do.
Hopefully your listeners can keep up with the ruckus the way we were rolling today. But
they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Drink some water.
Yeah.
You guys have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too. Be good to yourselves.
Yes. You guys do the same. Look, I got my water.
That's what I got in my mug. It's not coffee because I don't need any more coffee. It's water.
Here's what I have. Right.
Damn, she gets trumped all too. I'm like, all of us. She's just like, okay, I got my gallon.
Going out.
Listen, the next time we communicate, I hope that you guys are like really into the YouTube thing and making progress. And I want to hear about how you wrote yourselves in your own little books to take breaks. And what it is that you did. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'll be like, what did you do for yourself this month?
I love that. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
See, we got to get on it.
I know. I'm like,
I got your number. I'll text you. What did you do lately? And then please do the same with me.
I bet
I need to take my own advice.
You got to flip it back.
We're going to all be, I'm going to make a group chat. Don't worry. I got it covered.
There we go.
There we go. Guys, love y'all.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.